My friends, how do you feel about innovation? It's good stuff, right? You know, terrorists innovate too. This is Howard Riell. The show is called Real Truth. Welcome. Item from PJ Media. I'll tell you what I mean. A 22-year-old man from Oakland, California was indicted Friday on charges related to material support for ISIS. His case represents the 130th ISIS-related arrest in the U.S. since March 2014. According to the Justice Department, Amer Sinan al-Haggagi opened up social media accounts on behalf of ISIS and was willing to commit a suicide bombing. Even more disturbing, according to the indictment, al-Haggagi said he wanted to, quote, redefine terror, unquote, and kill 10,000 people here in a domestic terror attack. The indictment also states al-Haggagi discussed selling poison drugs and attacking a gay club in San Francisco. The whole Bay Area is going to be up in flames, he reportedly said. Unquote. So, my friends, you and I are afraid that what we've seen in the past may happen where we live. Someone swinging a machete, someone blowing up a bomb at a concert, someone driving into a crowd. And yes, as long as there are Muslims in your city, those things may indeed happen. But terrorists are like everybody else in that they innovate. They want to get bigger and badder and cause more destruction and kill more people, like this guy who wanted to redefine terror. So we can do two things. We can sit around, fat, dumb, and happy, and wait for terrorists to redefine terror and bring it to a bigger, broader scale, kill more people, wreak more destruction, or we can be proactive and keep it from happening. How do we do that, Riell? Well, that's a good question. Goes back to logic. I'm a big proponent of logic. If you don't have eggs, you don't have an omelet. If you don't have Muslims, you don't have Muslim terror. Now, you can try and PC that up a little bit, and you can try and view it from a humanitarian perspective, but one thing is true, and that's what I said. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims. And so, where you have no Muslims, you have no terrorists. Now, if that thought frightens you, I don't blame you. But that doesn't make it any less true. It's Tuesday. It's Real Truth. And I'll be back. That's also true. So go nowhere. All right, guys, welcome back to Real Truth. I am Howard Riell. A guy named Bill Whittle. He does the firewall. He thinks the same things that I do about liberals. He knows exactly how destructive, even deadly, they can be. Here's Bill Whittle.
Have you been feeling lately that the country's not only gone barking mad, that things are actually inverted? They're not just askew, they're upside down. Well, you're not alone. This is Andrea Yearwood from Cromwell High School in Connecticut. Andrea recently took first place in the 100 and 200 meter events in the women's division. Now, if you think this video is about the transgender phenomenon, well, it's not. It's much bigger than that. I believe everyone should have a chance to live their lives and pursue their own individual happiness as they see fit, unless and until it impacts someone else's pursuit of happiness. Andrea, you see, was born male, and Andrea's best time put Andrea roughly a second behind same-age boys and about a second or so ahead of same-age girls. And in a sport where victory is measured by 100th of a second, that's a pretty big difference. Now, Andrea handily beat all of the competition, all right, and the reason that Andrea handily beat the competition is because Andrea identifies as a girl. And since Andrea identifies as a girl, Andrea deprived dozens, if not scores, of competitors who do not identify themselves as girls because they are girls. Andrea's mother, Ngozi Najani, had this to say to the athletes and their families who felt cheated by Andrea's biological advantages when it comes to track and field. I know they'll say it's unfair and not right, but my counter to that is, why not? Yeah, why not indeed? She's competing and practicing and giving her all and performing and excelling based on her skills. Let that be enough. Let her do that and be proud of that. So the main thing here is this. Andrea feels good, her mother feels good, and Andrea's coach, Brian Calhoun, feels good too. I have a spectacular female athlete, he gushed. There's nothing more to say. Only there was just a little more to say. To approach it any other way might create some sort of issue or conversation, added Coach Calhoun, and you're damn right it would. That is the sound of a man with a gun to his head. So, why is Andrea competing in and handily winning female athletics? Well, because Andrea wants to, that's why. For all of the young women out there who also want to win, the left is silent naturally, but behind the silence is this unspoken explanation. Yes, we're all about empowering girls, and yes, we want each of you to strive to be your best, and yes, we know you want to win too, but Andrea outranks you, you see. This one person's desire to win races is more important than the scores of you who also have a desire to win races. That's why. Why do they do this? Why are other girls forced to look down at their track shoes and pretend to celebrate the joyous diversity of a competitor born a man and who they have no chance whatsoever of defeating? Why? Why are these rules in place in America today? Well, because they have to be, that's why. Here in the Republic of Emotion, Andrea has to be able to compete with the girls because if Andrea is not allowed to compete with the girls because Andrea has a man's body, well, then the entire progressive theory comes crashing to the ground, and I mean all of it. You see, to admit that Andrea has an unfair biological advantage is to admit that there are, in fact, irreducible differences between men and women, and that hurts some people's feelings, and so therefore it cannot be true, which is why Andrea gets to run in the women's division. Progressivism is the belief that anything a progressive wants is a fundamental human right, which others are obligated to tolerate and pay for without complaint, because if you do complain, it might create some sort of issue or conversation. Therefore, the fact that many high schools and virtually every college in America has hundreds or thousands of teenage boys who run the 100-meter dash faster than the fastest woman alive, well, that's evidence that external reality not only exists, it also doesn't care about how much someone wants something to be true, and therefore external reality must be destroyed. Because if male athletes are faster and stronger than female athletes, despite the rhetoric and hysteria of intersectional feminists, for example, well, then that unpleasant truth means that there are other unpleasant truths as well. That healthcare isn't free, that wars are not the results of misunderstanding, but rather of antithetical and deeply held belief systems. That throwing an AR-15 into a volcano does not end madness and murder. No, it all comes down, all of it. So, Andrea gets to race with the girls because if the power of rhetoric and fanaticism cannot make that fair and equal, then when you get right down to it, rhetoric and fanaticism really aren't worth a damn, are they? Speaking of rhetoric and fanaticism, culture and gender studies researcher Wendy Stark says that classical physics is oppressive, and therefore new laws of physics, feminist quantum, says Stark, will have to be devised. Why will the structure of the universe have to be reordered on less patriarchal lines? Well, because, according to Ms. Stark, the structural thinking of individualized separatism with binary and absolute differences as the basis for how the universe works, seeped into, poured over, is embedded in many structures of classification which understand similarity and difference in the world imposed in many hierarchical and exploitative organizational structures, whether through gender, life, non-life, national borders, and so on. Part of this absence is the frequent subsuming of intersectional identities under supposedly encompassing meta-identities more readily recognized by or as hegemonicized groupings. Hegemonicized groupings. I'm not smart enough to really understand it. It's like E equals MC squares. It's only smarter because there are bigger words and there are a lot more. Now that's how physics works here in the Republic of Emotion. Not every action has an equal and opposite reaction, but rather every non-hierarchically determined community-based mobilizing event has a fully equal, diverse, and joyous reaction that may at times seem to be non-consensual to the pervading artificial direction matrix applied by patriarchal white supremacists as a result of their racist privilege. Having fits about not getting what you want is not progressive or enlightened. It's childish. It is instead the morality and ethics of a spoiled child having a temper tantrum on the floor at Walmart because mommy didn't get them the toy that they wanted.
And my friends, that is liberal psychology, and that is, by the way, the Democratic Party's psychology. And as you can see, they, once again, will never lift a finger to help America because they're spoiled children, just like liberals in general. Item from the Associated Press. It's been 5 months since the shy, frail 13-year-old was snatched from his bed, drugged, and raped in the middle of the night. The boy hasn't been able to say much since. 4 years into South Sudan's devastating civil war, the world's youngest nation is reeling from sexual violence on a massive scale. A new Amnesty International report says thousands of women, children, and some men are suffering in silence, grappling with mental distress. Some now have HIV, others were rendered impotent. The report is based on interviews with 168 victims of sexual violence in South Sudan and in refugee camps in neighboring Uganda, some of the world's fastest growing refugee crises. Some of the sexual assaults occur not during the fighting, but among millions of people sheltering from the conflict. So, my friends, what is it that we have in South Sudan and Uganda? Well, we got a lot of victims of sexual molestation, rape, and we got a lot of Muslims.
John witnessed him and cried out, saying, "This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. Behold these truths, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that the security rights of government are consistent among them, deriving the just power from the consent of the government. This is the America that thank you.
Okay, I guess we're back on the air. I couldn't hear the music. This is Howard Riell. We're back with more Real Truth, despite the technical glitches. I have got, from just a couple of hours ago, your president and mine, Donald Trump, and actually this is from yesterday, there was a massive record-breaking crowd at a Boy Scout jamboree, and Donald Trump received not only several standing ovations, but the crowd was chanting, "We love Trump." Here's some of it.
Much. I am thrilled to be here. Thrilled. And if you think that was an easy trip, you're wrong.
Okay, here we go.
19th Boy Scout Jamboree. Wow. And to address such a tremendous group, boy, you have a lot of people here. The press will say it's about 200 people. It looks like about 45,000 people. You set a record today. You set a record. That's a great honor, believe me. Tonight, we put aside all of the policy fights in Washington, D.C. you've been hearing about with the fake news and all of that. We're going to put that aside. And instead, we're going to talk about success, about how all of you amazing young scouts can achieve your dreams, what to think of, what I've been thinking about. You want to achieve your dreams. I said, who the hell wants to speak about politics when I'm in front of the Boy Scouts, right? There are many great honors that come with the job of being President of the United States. But looking out at this incredible gathering of mostly young patriots, mostly young, I'm especially proud to speak to you as the honorary president of the Boy Scouts of America. You are the young people of character and integrity who will serve as leaders in our communities and uphold the sacred values of our nation. I want to thank Boy Scouts President Randall Stevenson, Chief Scout Executive Michael Serbal, Jamboree Chairman Ralph De La Vega, and the thousands of volunteers who have made this a life-changing experience for all of you. And when they asked me to be here, I said absolutely yes. Finally, and we can't forget these people, I especially want to salute the moms and the dads and troop leaders who are here tonight. Thank you for making scouting possible. Thank you, Mom and Dad, troop leaders. When you volunteer for the Boy Scouts, you are not only shaping young lives, you are shaping the future of America. The United States has no better citizens than its Boy Scouts. No better. The values, traditions, and skills you learn here will serve you throughout your lives. And just as importantly, they will serve your families, your cities, and in the future and in the present will serve your country. The Scouts believe in putting America first. You know, I go to Washington and I see all these politicians and I see the swamp, and it's not a good place. In fact, today I said we ought to change it from the word swamp to the word cesspool, or perhaps to the word sewer. But it's not good. Not good. and I see what's going on, and believe me, I'd much rather be with you. That I can tell you. I'll tell you the reason that I love this and the reason that I really wanted to be here is because as president, I rely on former Boy Scouts every single day, and so do the American people. It's amazing how many Boy Scouts we have at the highest level of our great government. Many of my top advisors in the White House were Scouts. 10 members of my cabinet were Scouts. Can you believe that? 10. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is not only a Boy Scout, he's your former national president. The Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, good guy, was a Scout, and it meant so much to him. Some of you here tonight might even have camped out in this yard when Mike was the governor of Indiana, but the scouting was very, very important. And by the way, where are our Indiana Scouts tonight? I wonder if the television cameras will follow you. They don't like doing that when they see these massive crowds. They don't like doing it. Hi, folks. A lot of love in this big, beautiful place. A lot of love, and a lot of love for our country. There's a lot of love for our country. Secretary of the Interior, Ryan Zinke, is here tonight. Come here, Ryan. Ryan is an Eagle Scout from Big Sky Country in Montana. Pretty good. And by the way, he is doing a fantastic job. He makes sure that we leave our national parks and federal lands better than we found them in the best scouting tradition. So thank you very much, Ryan. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry of Texas, an Eagle Scout from the great state. The first time he came to the National Jamboree was in 1964. He was very young then. And Rick told me just a little while ago, it totally changed his life. So Rick, thank you very much for being here. And we're doing a lot with energy. And very soon, Rick, we will be an energy exporter. Isn't that nice? An energy exporter. In other words, we'll be selling our energy instead of buying it from everybody all over the globe. So that's good. We will be energy dominant, and I'll tell you what, the folks in West Virginia who were so nice to me, boy, have we kept our promise. We are going on and on. So we love West Virginia. We want to thank you. Where's West Virginia, by the way? Thank you. Secretary Tom Price is also here today. Dr. Price still lives the Scout Oath, helping to keep millions of Americans strong and healthy as our Secretary of Health and Human Services, and he's doing a great job. And hopefully he's going to get the votes tomorrow to start our path toward killing this horrible thing known as Obamacare that's really hurting us. By the way, you're going to get the votes? He better get them. He better get them. Oh, he better. Otherwise, I'll say, Tom, you're fired. I'll get somebody.
By the way, my friends, let me jump in here and update you a little bit. Senate Republicans today resuscitated their health care legislation for now, narrowly clearing it past the hurdle with the help of Senator John McCain's dramatic return to the chamber for the first time since his brain cancer diagnosis. The Senate voted 51-50 to start debate, with Vice President Pence casting the tiebreaker. Stop. My friends, listen to how logjammed the Washington cesspool is. What is it that passed by one vote? A decision to talk about it, to debate the health care bill. Just talking about it split the Republicans and the Democrats down the middle. Well, there were no Democrat votes. By one vote, they agreed to talk about it. Because if not for that tie-breaking vote by Pence, they wouldn't even be able to talk about it. That's how divided our government is. It's shocking and terrible. Let's go back to the president.
You better get Senator Capito to vote for it. You got to get the other senators to vote for it. It's time. You know, after 7 years of saying repeal and replace Obamacare, we have a chance to now do it. They better do it. Hopefully they'll do it. As we can see just by looking at our government, in America, scouts lead the way. And another thing I've noticed, and I've noticed it all my life, there is a tremendous spirit with being a scout, more so than almost anything I can think of. So whatever's going on, keep doing it. It's incredible to watch, believe me. Each of these leaders will tell you that their road to American sex, and you have to understand, their American success, and they are a great, great story, was paved with the patriotic American values and traditions they learned in the Boy Scouts. And someday, many years from now, when you look back on all of the adventures in your lives, you will be able to say the same. I got my start as a scout, just like these incredibly great people that are doing such a good job for our country. So that's going to happen.
My friends, as wholesome as the Boy Scouts are and as much good as they do, liberals hate them because they don't hire gays, they don't hire transsexuals. It's thoroughly repulsive and just another in a very long line of examples why liberalism is anathema to America. It's against everything good that America stands for. Item from InfoWars. Imam Ammar Shaheen of the Islamic Center of Davis in California delivered a sermon on Friday in which he quoted an anti-Semitic hadith and prayed for Allah to, quote, annihilate Jews down to the very last one, unquote. Well, my friends, if they annihilate Jews down to the very last one, then I won't be here to do this show anymore. Just imagine someone standing up in America and saying, let's annihilate Muslims to the very last one, or let's annihilate gays to the very last one, or let's annihilate blacks to the very last one. There would be an uproar. How much uproar was there about what this jackass said? None. Think about it. We'll be back.
Animal House Taxidermy in Brighton would like to take this time to say thank you to all the brave men and women in the armed forces who have served our country. Business owners, consider hiring veterans, our most dependable resource. And to those heroes back home from missions abroad, know that your dedication, selflessness, and courage are appreciated. May God bless America. This message is from Animal House Taxidermy in Brighton, proud to salute the fighting forces of our country.
This is Michael, Control American. The American Freedom Network needs your help. Please call 1-205-6245. That's 1-800-205-6245 to make your donation, or send a check for the money over to P.O. Box 1750, Johnstown, Colorado 80534. PO Box 1750, Johnstown, Colorado, 80534. Help us keep the voice of truth and freedom on the air. Thank you.
Now this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 21.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter in Lafayette, Vermont. No one anywhere is more noble, righteous, selfless, or courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families foot the bill for our freedom every day. Send a military care package today to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
The Elizabeth Locker Plan in Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early age. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had the strength to say no to drugs. They provide examples to their peers and families to be the best they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plant, located at 366 Grant Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized aged beef and pork and complete custom processing. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. I am Howard Riell. Maria Bartiromo on the Fox Business Network sat down a day or so ago, a couple days ago, with Newt Gingrich talking about Anthony Scaramucci, the new communications director in the White House, and how they won't say it, but I'll say it. He's going to be kicking ass on behalf of you and me. Here's Maria Bartiromo.
House ready to hit the ground running next week with a new commander at the helm of the communications team. It comes after a sudden shakeup in the West Wing. Sean Spicer announcing his resignation on Friday as the president's press secretary. The job now falls to his former deputy, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Financier Anthony Scaramucci is coming on board as the White House communications director, a position that will put him in charge of crafting the messages and strategy for the entire communications operation. Joining me now is Newt Gingrich. She is former Speaker of the House, author of the New York Times best-selling book, Understanding Trump, and also a Fox News contributor. Mr. Speaker, good to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
It's good to be with you.
Your reaction to Anthony Scaramucci in the job, how does this change things for the White House?
Well, first of all, I think he's a great choice because the president likes him and trusts him, and the chemistry will be very, very good. Scaramucci is very smart. He also is very clever. I think he'll be a fighter, but he won't be hostile. I think he'll be friendly with the press, but he'll also be very direct and very tough in taking on things that he thinks are false allegations or things he thinks are just plain inaccurate. I also think promoting Sarah Huckabee was really a good idea. She has done a great job. She has her personality that I think is going to wear very well with the American people. And the combination of the two of them may turn out to be a very, very effective duo in hammering home the president's strategy. Remember, this president will be in a war with the elite establishment for every single day of his 2 terms. So for 8 years, they're going to be in a fight, and they just need to relax and have people like Scaramucci who are comfortable fighting, and then people like Sarah who are very good at making the press feel comfortable while she calmly and pleasantly disagrees with them.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has done a very good job. She deserves that promotion. And as far as Scaramucci, I think one takeaway that I had was the fact that he believes in the agenda, Newt. He actually understands that lower taxes, smaller government, lower regulations will impact economic growth, so he's going to make that a priority.
Well, and you've had him on your show many, many times.
Yes.
So you know what an engaging personality is, how much energy he has. And I think, frankly, If you're going to be one of the folks who is a shield bearer for Donald Trump, you had better have a ton of energy because you're trying to keep up with somebody who's a whirlwind and who's fairly unpredictable. So I'm looking forward to seeing Scaramucci in this job, and I think I think he'll probably do a really good job, particularly because the next big phase is going to be tax cuts, economic growth, things he knows so well that he'll be able to, I think, dominate the news media on those kind of topics pretty decisively.
Right, in terms of setting the tone on what's important. And to that end, you have come up with a white paper here, Republican Mid-Course Correction. Let's talk about that, because you're saying the White House, the House, the Senate Republicans need to jointly assess their team's first 6 months. Sure. So where are we? Tell us about it.
I mean, think of it being like a football game. It's halftime. As I've said to several Republican leaders, do you really want to repeat the last 6 months? Everyone has said to me, no. Well, if you don't want to repeat it, you got to change. And I think the first big change is to really emphasize by Thanksgiving having a tax cut bill signed into law, which means it has to be fairly simple, fairly straightforward. I think drop tax reform as a goal, go to tax cut as a goal, recognize that if we don't have economic growth in the first and second quarter of next year that proves we're the party of jobs and prosperity and take-home pay, we could lose the House and then be faced with Speaker Pelosi for the last 2 years of this term. I think that would be a disaster of such proportions that every Republican, White House, Senate, House, ought to focus in on, make August jobs and take-home pay and economic growth month, get the bill through the House in September, get it through the Senate in October, get the bill signed by Thanksgiving. It gives Republicans something to talk about, hold town hall meetings on jobs, economic growth, and take-home pay. If the left wants to come, let them. The last president had the weakest 8 years in modern history. Weaker, I mean, what's worse than the Great Depression in terms of economic growth? It is astonishing. Obama's best year was slower than Bill Clinton's worst year. Now, that's astonishing. And we just need to draw the contrast and say, look, those of you who want to go off and talk about Russia, feel free. We want to talk about jobs, take-home pay, economic growth, because they're the key to America's future.
Yeah, and that's why the communications and the messaging is so important, and that's where Anthony Scaramucci comes in. He's got to make sure that that is front and center in terms of the agenda, and not the noise that are all of these hearings in terms of Russia. By the way, why aren't there more hearings on tax reform, Newt? How come? I mean, there was a hearing on a subcommittee out of the House Ways and Means Committee last week did a hearing on simplicity. But how come we're seeing so many testimonies on Russia and no testimonies on repeal and replace? No explanation on tax reform, on tax cuts.
Well, look, I think it's a mistake, and I do think the Ways and Means Committee has done a lot of hearings. But one of the great problems Republicans have is a passion for being boring. Again, Scaramucci clearly is not a guy who believes in being boring, so I think he will liven it up. But we should be talking about economic growth. We should be talking about jobs. We should get the tax rate down to 15% for business, including a pass-through for small businesses. We ought to have a very substantial middle-class tax cut, probably by doubling the deduction. We got to get the money back from overseas with repatriation. There are 3 or 4 simple things we could do. And if you went home and you said to people, you want to say you met with your local small businesses and said, if you were at 15% business tax, what would you do? How much better off would you be?
Right.
You'd suddenly have people get excited about something in Washington, and you'd have positive pressure on Congress, including the Democrats. I mean, let the Democrats go home and explain why they want you to pay higher taxes, have fewer jobs, have less take-home pay. I think a lot of Democrats will break under that kind of pressure.
Yeah, and in your notes, you say based on the successes of 1981 to 1988 and then 1994 to 1997, some key principles for success stand out. One of them is if you develop effective communications about popular policies, we should be able to build big enough social media communities of support to both reinforce members and to add pressure to the Democrats. But what do you do when you've got these Senate leaders basically saying, no, we're not going to vote, getting in the way of any legislative victory?
Well, I think, first of all, on the Republican side, I think you can shape a tax cut bill that every Republican senator can be for.
Right.
This is why I always wanted them to start with taxes and infrastructure, because you could build a huge bipartisan majority.
Right.
Reagan, but what it requires is Every cabinet officer should be assigned speeches in August for jobs and economic growth and take-home pay. The president, I think, ought to give an Oval Office address for the first time.
We got to jump. Neil, great to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
That's it.
My friends, the more Donald Trump goes out there speaking to the American people, the more successful he has been and will be. Item from the Daily Mail. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Tuesday urged all Muslims to visit and protect Jerusalem. Unquote. Let me translate that to you into truth. When Erdogan tells Muslims to go to Jerusalem to protect it, he means to take over the Temple Mount again, to push Israelis, Jews, off the Temple Mount, maybe if they have some extra time to beat up some Jews, kill some Jews, ram some cars into a crowd. He's telling them to go commit acts of terrorism. That's what he's really saying. Now, for those of you who don't know the history, the Muslims have no connection to Jerusalem. None. We'll be back.
And of his fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16. Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival. American Window Tinting Incorporated in Frighttown reminds parents, keep an eye on your child while shopping. Children tend to stray or become lost. This poses an opportunity for a would-be abductor. Please make every effort to keep track of your little ones at all times. If you have information regarding a lost child, call local authorities at once. This message is from American Window Tinting Incorporated in Franktown. For residential or commercial window tinting, call 303-263-4228.
My friends, you know I love talking about liberal hypocrisy because there's so much of it. For example, you and I had better not say anything that might possibly, potentially insult someone on the basis of race or sexuality. I mean, they can. We can't make fun of someone for the way they look, but liberals can. Here's Tucker Carlson talking about just that liberal hypocrisy. Go, Tucker.
Thank you for joining us. The Daily Beast reporter says Sarah Huckabee Sanders is something called a butch queen. We'll tell you what that actually means. It's not great, and then we'll ask why the left doesn't seem to follow its own rhetoric on bullying. No enemies on the left. That's the rule. Stay tuned. Is it okay to use gender-based insults as long as you're a liberal in good standing? Dumb question. Of course the answer is yes. You can do whatever you want. We've got yet another example from today. We never get sick of these. On Monday morning, Daily Beast writer Ira Madison III tweeted out a picture of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the new press secretary over at the White House, along with the caption, "Butch Queen, first time in drag at ball." Now, for those of you who are not hip to lingo like that, he's basically suggesting that she is a bad male cross-dresser. Madison, Ira Madison III, is worth noting, is the same writer who ridiculed Jeff Sessions for having an adopted Asian granddaughter at his confirmation hearings. He later deleted that tweet but has not apologized for it. And, of course, no one's asked him to because he's a liberal, so, like, whatever. It's not bad. Tammy Bruce and Luther Behrman are both radio show hosts, and they join us tonight. Thank you for coming on, both of you. So, Tammy, I mean, we could go on for hours, but, like, does anybody on the left ever get in trouble for using language that people on the right would lose their jobs over?
You know, they don't, and this is the problem. If we're going to, as minorities, going to insist that we're somehow morally superior to people, maybe it would be helpful if there was actually some decent behavior involved, right? I mean, as a gay woman, I want everyone to have equal opportunity. I want everyone to be treated decently. That's really should be the foundation of any civil rights movement, of equal opportunity, equal treatment, being able to live our lives as we see fit. And it's a good argument to make, and it's a legitimate one. But it's difficult to be able to hold that foundation if you're on the left, when in fact you then continue to be the bully. That you're the one who says, well, you stand up for women, you're going to march and you're going to make those pink caps and you stand up for every woman. But when it comes to women in the Trump administration, not only are you going to call them names, you're going to objectify them based on their appearance. And it's not just Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it's also Kellyanne Conway, who was portrayed as a fatal attraction type of woman on Saturday Night Live. It's all really the women who have supported the president. And part of it I have to argue, and I'll leave with this point, is that I think there's also some religious bigotry involved here as well, that's one of the differences with these women compared perhaps to liberal women, some of whom are people of faith, but I don't think that we can ignore that.
No, I think that's right. So, Ethan, I talk for a living, so I'm interested in what the rules are. So I thought the rules were you weren't allowed to attack people on the basis of their immutable characteristics, the basis of their sex or their race. You can't make fun of that stuff. It's not funny. And yet, I don't know, I see Joe Biden refer to Barack Obama as, clean and articulate, and he gets picked as VP. I see this Ira Madison character call her, mock her sexuality and her sex, and yet it's like not a big deal. Why is that allowed?
Well, I mean, again, we're using a single example here of somebody who insulted. And by the way, well, okay, so two examples. Well, one was from a while ago at that point. But we have an example. We have an insulter in chief right now who all the way through the campaign was busy.
My friends, here's liberal logic again. Bang! Right there. Right when you're trying to make a point and think something through, you hit that brick wall of liberal logic. And you remember that brick wall pretty well, right? Remember when Barack Obama was president? And you would say, hey, Barack Obama has done this wrong. What was their initial response? Yeah, what about Bush? Barack Obama is helping terrorists. Yeah, but what about Bush? Barack Obama has doubled our national debt. Yeah, but what about Bush? That's as far as the liberal brain can work. So here, Tucker has just given multiple examples, and there are, believe me, countless examples of liberal hypocrisy. And he's asking this guy, the liberal on the show, why do liberals do it and why do they put up with it? And his response is, yeah, but what about Trump? This is why I agree that liberalism is a mental disorder.
Insulting people, setting the tone for the country. He's now the president. The president does set the tone for the country.
Okay.
And that
so in other words, he's saying Donald Trump sets the tone for liberals. Guy's a schmuck, right?
Insulting people on a regular
basis.
What is
the argument that you're making?
What Ira said.
So what is the argument that you're making, that because Trump does it, it's okay? I mean, I thought the whole point was Trump's not supposed to do that. We're horrified that he does it. We're taking a moral stand against him doing it, but now we're doing it ourselves. Doesn't that kind of undercut the case?
Yeah, and I just I was saying that I don't agree with what I was saying. I think it's actually wrong to do that kind of a low-level, guttural criticism. By the way, if you look at his other writing on Daily Beast, this is kind of what he does, is hurl insults. He's not the most positive writer. This isn't the best example, and surely does not represent people left of center.
No, he doesn't represent people on the left at all. People on the left are never hypocrites, never engage in personal attacks, never get nasty. That's why we love them so much, right?
Of the way we speak about our political opponents. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with political violence either.
It doesn't represent the left. I mean, I don't go on social media too much because I've got a job. But every time I'm there, I notice, and I'm sure you do too, both of you, that the left is totally this is like normal, Tammy.
Yeah, let me just remind everybody also the comparison of women who are conservative to men or gay men or transsexuals. Also, Ann Coulter has faced that as well. I mean, it's a strange kind of homophobic, transphobic attack on women who are conservative to accuse them somehow of being men. And this is what I also find strange. My first book, interestingly enough, like 15 years ago, was about the New Thought Police, was how the racism, sexism, and homophobia live on the left, that all of this is actually projection.
It's absolutely correct. And I have to cut it off there because we're about to hit a commercial, but Tammy Bruce is right. She's oh so right. Item from thecollegefix.com. Are young men at Princeton University violent, aggressive, hypermasculine, stalkers, or rapists? A new position at the Ivy League institution indicates campus officials apparently think enough of its male students grapple with such problems that it warrants hiring a certified clinician dedicated to combating them. The university is in the process of hiring a, quote, interpersonal violence clinician and men's engagement manager who will work with a campus office called SHARE dedicated to survivors of sexual harassment, assault, dating violence, and stalking. Bunch of crap, my friends. Bunch of crap. And we'll be back.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Uniform people created firefighters in our community. We thank them for doing a great job keeping our area a place to live, shop, and raise a family. We realize their job is dangerous, sometimes death. This message comes simply from uniform people in greeting. Call 352-2233. They're on the air because they care. The uniform people in Greeley. Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo.
Item from the Jerusalem Post. Despite the removal of metal detectors from the entrances to the Temple Mount, Muslim worshippers are still refusing to enter the compound due to the presence of the newly installed smart cameras at the site. The worshippers said they refused to enter the holy place if security cameras and other sensors and security equipment put in place over the last 10 days remained in place. Stop! What insanity is happening once again in Israel? Instead of using smart cameras and metal detectors to monitor the Muslims, why don't they just get the hell rid of the Muslims? My God, is common sense dead all over the planet? Item from Breitbart. Breitbart London editor-in-chief Raheem Kassan this week revealed the cover of his new book called No-Go Zones, How Sharia Law is Coming to a Neighborhood Near You. My friends, the book is coming to a neighborhood near you. Here's a little bit more description. The stark cover image, sure to outrage liberals and no-go zone deniers, depicts a Statue of Liberty veiled in a full burqa, an item of clothing so regressive it's even been banned by the French government and other public places across Europe. Unquote. Item from Breitbart. A host on the left-wing MSNBC, mocked Democrats like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi on Monday for the party's lack of diversity that was on display when Democrats unveiled their new Better Deal plan in Virginia. While guest hosting MTP Daily, Chris Jansing told Senator Tom Carper, Democrat Delaware, the Democrats who were on stage, quote, didn't look tremendously diverse. 10 Democrats went to Virginia for the Better Deal rollout, and there were only 2 or 3 Democrats of color on stage, depending on whether Warren and Elizabeth Warren is actually part Native American. Unquote. Warren is a liar who claimed to be Native American. It turns out, once again, that liberals are hypocrites, and by the way, liberals are always the real, true racists, as you can see. Item from Breitbart, less than 6 weeks after the first driver death at Calais caused by migrants, a trucker has been struck on the head with a brick by illegals who then stole the victim's vehicle. The Road Haulage Association described the attack on the unnamed driver, who's recovering in hospital from a serious head injury, as extremely disturbing, and noted that it, quote, comes as a stark warning to UK-bound haulers that migrants will stop at nothing to reach our shores. Unquote. My friends, I don't care if migrants reach their shores, but we need to keep their sorry asses off our shores. Item from InfoWars, a new Pew Research poll finds that liberals are far more tolerant than conservatives, once again slaying the sacred cows that leftists are less bigoted when it comes to people. A new poll finds that liberals are far more intolerant than conservatives. Little difference there. Once again, slaying the sacred cow that leftists are less bigoted when it comes to people who hold different beliefs from them. Nearly half, 47% of liberal Democrats, say a friend's support for Donald Trump will put a strain on their relationship, while 13% of Republicans said that. The poll also found that liberal intolerance actually increases with more education. There's a 17 percentage point gap between the share of Democrats with a college degree or more education and the share with no more than a high school education, saying a friend voted for Trump would put a strain on their relationship. Unquote. So, my friends, the bottom line is this. Liberalism is indeed a form of mental illness, and all of its various symptoms are on display every single day in the media. You certainly have seen it yourself, and so don't ever vote for politicians who are liberals. I mean, that just kind of makes sense, right? All right, I'll be back tomorrow because that also makes sense. Hasta luego, my friends. Have a good night.